Hello, I'm Monica Price and welcome to Cuppa TV. On today's show, I'm joined by Talulah Eve Brown, a 21-year-old transgender model who has just been crowned Miss Transgender Birmingham, and a well-known singer-songwriter, Khaliq, who has worked with many top musicians. He joins me today to perform songs from his new up-and-coming album. My first guest is Talulah Eve, who's just been crowned Miss Transgender Birmingham and is setting her heights now on becoming Miss Transgender UK. Welcome, Talulah, to the Cuppa TV.
Hello.
Wonderful to have you here on the show.
It's a pleasure.
So, what a wonderful, wonderful thing to be crowned Miss Transgender Birmingham, of course.
I know, I'm so overwhelmed at the minute because I really wasn't expecting it.
It's just happened, hasn't it? So
yeah.
it's been in the last few weeks.
Everything's been so chaotic and mad, and everything's so unpredictable at the minute with the pageant, so you just never know who's going to come out on top, who's going to win, so yeah, I'm happy.
I'm so pleased. Well, let's start at the beginning though. How did it all begin for you, Talulah?
Well, in terms of like growing up and everything, I was always like really feminine when I was younger, and I always wanted to play with the girls, play Barbies and dress up and things like that. And my mum always used to like push me into doing the boy activities and playing with the boys and doing football, and I hated it. But my grandma could see that I was like really happy being girly and being with the girls, so my grandma would always be like supportive of me, and my mum would be the complete opposite. So it was a little bit difficult. And at Christmas, my grandma would be like, "Oh, what do you want for your birthday?" And I'd say, "Oh, a Barbie doll." And my mum would be like, "Oh no, you're having an Action Man or a football." Yeah. And but then as time went on, I kind of realised that I needed to kind of fit in with the boys a little bit more in order to make my mum happy, and so that I wasn't going to get as much stick, because I started to realise that it was a little bit of a, not a bad thing, but I thought it was a bad thing at that time, because you don't really understand anything at that age. Yeah.
Yes. How old were you, Talulah?
I was about 5 or 6.
So 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Did you have an inkling then that you were different? That you felt that
straight
you were
away,
in the wrong body?
From what I can remember, I was always different. And but at that age, you just don't know anything about that kind of thing because you're not educated on it. So I just thought, oh my God, I'm so weird. Like, what's going on with me? And I went through primary school and everything was kind of like fine. I managed to make friends. I was always friends with the girls anyway. And then when it got to high school, I realised how different I really was, because when you get to high school, you're categorised into boys, girls. So the boys will do football in PE and the girls will do gymnastics. And if you don't hang around with the certain groups that you should be, then you will get outcasted. And I did. Had no friends. I was so lonely. And that's how I ended up developing an eating disorder, because I had no one to eat my lunch with at lunchtime in the canteen. So I used to go into the toilets, and then people started laughing at me because I was eating my sandwiches in the cubicles. And so I just stopped eating altogether. And I think subconsciously that was my way of gaining control over something that I had no control with, if you know what I mean.
So
I had
you use the food, if you like, as a way to
that was
control it.
Yeah, it's controlling myself. And so then it was in year 8, so I would have been about 12. My mum found loads of sandwiches stuffed at the back of my wardrobe from where I was like trying to hide them from her. And she's like, "What's going on?" And I just burst into tears. I was like, "Mum, I've got no friends. Like, I just don't want to live anymore." And so my mum took me to a psychologist, and over time I started building my confidence again. I wasn't comfortable enough to embrace my feminine side like how I used to when I was a child, but I was starting to feel a little bit more confident. So I started making friends in like year 9, and obviously it was with the girls, because I've just never been comfortable around guys. Like, I just can't, be comfortable around them. And so I started making friends with the girls, and everyone started questioning my sexuality. They were like, because my name at the time was Aaron as a boy.
I was going to ask you that. So it's Aaron as a boy.
And everyone used to be like, "Aaron must be gay. Like, it's always hanging around with the girls. Like, it's never with the guys or anything like that." And so there was a lot of pressure on me to label myself as something, because I wasn't one of the guys that was getting with all the girls or playing football.
And how old are you at this stage?
I was like 13.
About 13,
yeah,
14.
13, 14, yeah. And I wasn't a geek, I wasn't anything like that, so there was a lot of pressure on me to fit a certain label. And so yeah, in like the end of year 9, I was just like, you know what, I'm gay, because that's the only way I could kind of like get people to understand and get the pressure off me in a way, because you're so taunted at school. The kids are cruel, they are. And so I came out as gay, and then everything was kind of all right for a bit, but I knew in my head that that wasn't it for me. Like, I knew that there was going to be a revelation at some point, yeah. And so after leaving high school, I went to college and I did art and design for 2 years, and I specialised in fashion, and I loved it because it was my way of being able to express my feelings creatively through the arts. And then I went on to do beauty therapy, and that's when I really started to find myself, because I was doing pedicures, manicures, things like that. And so then I started like experimenting with my look. I was dyeing my hair, growing my hair, wearing quite a lot of makeup, and people just kind of like in my hometown thought of me kind of as like a lady boy or whatever they call them. Do you know what I mean? And so a lot of people were talking about me in my hometown. I've always been the talk. I was always the talk of high school, because
and how did that
people
make you feel?
Yeah, like I just got on with it. It didn't bother me, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I started expressing myself a little bit more, and then it was on New Year's Eve in 2013, I said to my friend Jason, I was like, you know what, shall we go to the gay village in Birmingham and have a night out in drag? And he was like, yeah, let's do it. And I thought, oh my God, finally I can be like this woman that I've always wanted to be. And I thought, right, I need a name. And in my head, that was a way of kind of like weaning, is that the word,
yes,
weaning?
Yes.
Weaning Talulah into Burton, basically, because people wouldn't have understood it any other way. So I thought I'll bring Talulah out as like an alter ego. And so I went to a psychic, and the psychic said to me, she was like, I'm seeing this beautiful lady in in a dressing room with a mirror and loads of lights around her and loads of cameras around her. And she was like, this lady's name's Talulah. She was like, do you know anyone called Talulah? I was like, no. And she was like, She was like, I think this might be somebody that you're going to work with, because at the time I was a makeup artist. She's like, I think it's going to be someone that you're going to work with. And then she's like, actually no, it's going to be someone that you're going to become. She's like, you're going to become this person. And straight away I knew what she was on about. And as soon as she said the name Talulah, I was like, that's my name. Like, I loved it straight away. So I stuck with that name. And for New Year's Eve, I created my alter ego, Queen Talulah Fag. And I can't remember what Jason's was at the time. I think it was like Christy Rose. And we went out, and it was absolutely amazing. I had loads of photos, and everyone in Burton was like, oh, kind of thing. Like, nobody was really like horrible about it, but people were just kind of like, oh, okay, it must just be like acting.
More accepting.
Yeah. And then, and so then I was going out as Talulah all the time. Well, kind of like Talulah drag. I was going out like that all the time, and then eventually I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to tell people that this is what I'm going to become now, because this is what I do generally want. And so that's when I went to the Sun newspaper, and
why did you decide to take it to the Sun?
Well, I got approached by a journalist. The journalist said to me, oh, are you transgender? And I was like, yeah, I am, actually. I am transgender. And because at the time I was a little bit confused. I knew, obviously, I was becoming a woman in my head mentally. And but I hadn't like officially labelled myself as anything. And then when he was like, oh, are you transgender? I was like, yeah, I am. And he was like, do you want to do a story with the Sun? I was like, about what? And he was like, basically like telling your story and kind of like outing yourself because you're not out yet. I was like, you know what, sod it, I'm going to do it. So I did it, and at this point I hadn't told my mum. My mum didn't even like know about any of that. And I remember waking up one morning to like loads of messages on Facebook like, oh my God, you're in the Sun newspaper. I was like, oh my God, no, I need to like quickly like get out the house before my mum finds out. So I went to my grandma's, and I've always told my grandma everything. And my grandma was like, oh, you look good, you look really nice, like don't worry about it, you're just being you. If that's what makes you happy, then that's what makes you happy, and I'm happy to support you all the way. So my grandma was like really supportive about it. But my mum was a little bit like, oh my God, because everybody was saying like, is that really your son?
Is that because of the publicity, do you think?
Yeah. And so my mum had a really hard time like getting her head around it, because she struggled when I came out as gay. She struggled then, but she got her head around it. And then it was kind of like round 2 when I came out as transgender. She was like, oh my God, I can't go through this all again. And yeah, and then over time, like with the beauty pageant, it became easier for her, because she could see that everybody was so supportive, everyone was so loving towards me in my hometown and nationally as well in the press. And she kind of like started to get her head around it. And I think with it being so out there now in the media, you can watch documentaries about it all the time. You see it on the news, in the papers. Like you can really get a better understanding of how us like as people come to it, into this decision to transition.
To transition. And when with your parents, they're supportive of you now?
Yeah, well,
yes.
Yeah, my mum is, and with my dad was never really around. He was always in and out of prison. He was a bit of a bad boy, and he was in the canteen in prison, and he opened the Sun newspaper and seen me in it, and he was like, "Oh my God, that's my kid." And
did they have a picture of you as a boy and then a picture of you dressed up in drag?
Yeah, they had the comparison, and. But it wasn't as a drag, this was me as transgender. This was the first photo shoot, the first real moment that I actually came out as transgender. And my dad rang me up straight away and he was like, you know what, if that's what you want, then I'm happy to support you. My dad was a lot more supportive than my mum, even though I've always like lived with my mum and everything. My dad was really supportive, but he's just one of those guys who doesn't really care about anything, nothing phases him. But yeah, my mum's slowly starting to get her head around it a lot more now, and yeah, she's supporting me.
And I mean, have you got any siblings at all? Any
I've got a younger brother who's 5 on my mum's side, and then I've got 3 brothers on my dad's side and 2 sisters. So I've got quite a lot of siblings. A nice little family. And what about, how do they feel about everything? Yeah, they love it. Yeah, especially my little sister. She's only 8, and yeah, she loves it. And
she can still live at home?
Yeah, I still live at home, yeah.
So what do you find the most difficult? Because obviously it's been you've had an amazing story, but what do you find the most difficult out of all that you've gone through? What's been the most difficult time for you?
The most difficult time? There's been quite a fair few. I think when I first started my transition just over a year ago, that was difficult because at the time, not only in my hometown, but I think across the world, there wasn't really anybody to look up to in terms of inspiration. Like, now we've got Caitlyn Jenner and Kelly Malone, but there wasn't really anyone to relate to, if you know what I mean. And I think that's why this beauty pageant is so important, because we're giving society role models, we're giving ourselves up as role models, people to look up to, do you know what I mean? And that's why I put my stories out there in the press, and I come on TV and I do radio interviews and stuff, because I remember when I was, it was in 2006, me and my family were on the way to Wales, and we were reading the Sun newspaper, and at the time, Nadia had just won Big Brother in 2006, and I remember reading her story in the News of the World, and I was like, oh my God, and that was the real like turning point for me. I was like, oh my God, I can have a sex change. Like, I remember reading a story and feeling so inspired.
That was the first time you'd even
and
sort of
empowered.
thought about it.
Yeah, because at the time I didn't know anything about it growing up. I never knew that you could change your gender. I just thought I was going to be a weirdo forever, a woman trapped in a man's body. And then I read her story in the News of the World, and I just felt so empowered. I was like, oh my God, like this is me. And that's what I want for younger people. I want younger people to be able to read my stories, see me on TV, hear me on the radio and think, oh my God, yeah, I can do that too, she can do it. And that's what the beauty pageant's all about, really, you know, empowering the transgender community and being an inspiration. Yeah,
I mean, you spoke then, you know, it was a difficult time, obviously, and there's been many difficult times, and it's just the actual transition and people like Nadia. Do you feel now that there are more role models for young people to look to?
Yeah, definitely, because people aren't shying away from it anymore, people aren't hiding, and I mean, I'm doing my transition so publicly, so early on, do you know what I mean? Like, I've only had like 4 sessions of laser hair removal, and I've still got a massive lump on my throat. I've got no real boobs yet, so I'm very early on. I'm really putting my transition out there, whereas a lot of people would like to transition in peace and quiet. But I know it's helping people, and I get messages daily saying how much I've helped their children, I've helped them, and things like that, so it makes it all worthwhile. But I think the hardest part would be some of the stick I've got in the past. I mean, I've had bottles thrown at my head down the street, I was held at knife point when I was 18. You know, I've had some real difficult moments.
Just because of who you were trying to be and who you wanted to be?
Well, when I got held at knife point, it was more the case of, this is a straight guy and he had children, and he was in a relationship. I didn't know. And he got with me, like, sexually, and then realised afterwards that he didn't want anyone to find out, and he was kind of like ashamed of his curiosity, and that's when he tried to stab me. He was like, I don't want anyone finding out, and I obviously sworn down that I wasn't going to tell anybody, but he was having none of it, so he tried to kill me.
Stay with us, we're going to be joining back with Talulah in just a minute. Welcome back to Cuppa TV. I'm still here with Talulah. Talulah, thank you so much for sharing your story with us this morning. But so Talulah, before the break we were talking about you were attacked at 18 because of who you were trying to be at the time. You've had some very traumatic experiences, but still though you're very happy with what we're now going through this. You say you're going through the process of transgender. Can you just explain a little bit more what that actually involves for you?
Well, I'm quite early on in my transition, so at the minute I'm on hormone replacement therapy, and so that's slowly like developing breast tissue, making my breasts grow, and slowing down the speed of my bodily hair. I'm having laser hair removal as well, and so hopefully I'll start my surgical procedures roughly like mid next year, but I've got to have enough breast tissue first before I can have a boob job. But none of that's funded on the NHS, so everything cosmetic I've got to fund myself.
Right.
So my Adam's apple, that's my biggest insecurity. It makes me feel so insecure because it's so prominent, and that's the first thing I look at in the mirror in the morning. I hate it. And
can you get that reduced?
Yeah, so you can have, it's called a transitional shave, and they basically, because it's cartilage, they just shave it down. A lot of people cringe at the thought of that. But yeah, they just shave it down, but that's like £2,500.
So all this has to be funded by you? By
myself, yeah. The only thing that the National Health Service fund is your hormones, 8 sessions of laser hair removal, and after 4 years of being on the waiting list, your vaginoplasty down below.
So if you're on the waiting list, is there a whole set of people that look after you? Do you have counsellors that make sure you're going through the right process?
Definitely. Like just before I went to, just before I did my story with the Sun newspaper, I went to my GP at the doctor's and I said, look, I've got gender dysphoria, and I want to become a woman, basically. And my doctor was kind of like, oh, okay, well, this isn't my area of specialty, so I'm just going to refer you to the Nottingham Gender Clinic. And so I got referred, and it took 6 months to get referred, but I finally got referred, and I had 3 assessments, and then I got accepted onto the Real Life Living programme. And that's where you live as a woman every day, after changing your name and everything for 2 years, and they monitor you every 3 months. So you go back for like a catch-up session. Every 3 months, they monitor your hormones, your blood levels, things like that. And
to support you.
Yeah, basically to support you. Because 2 years is a good time to really see that that's somebody's decision and that they're making the right choice. And so that's why they do it. And then after you've been on the Real Life Living programme for 2 years and been on hormones and everything, that's when you'll get put onto the waiting list for your surgery down below.
So does everybody go on the Real Life woman process.
Yeah, you have to.
So
yeah.
that is something you have to for 2
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
And do you think that's a good thing, Talulah?
I think so, definitely. I think, obviously, in some states in America, they're a little bit more advanced than us. Like, I don't know if you watched that documentary on BBC Three. I think it was last year. I think Louis Theroux, and it was called Transgender Kids.
No, I didn't see it.
Yeah, he went to San Francisco, and in San Francisco, they do this thing where, if a child, because there's children as young as like 3 and 4 that are saying, "Mummy, I don't want to be a boy, I want to be a girl," or "I don't want to be a girl, I want to be a boy," and which is kind of proof that it's nothing to do with a parent's parenting skills or anything to do with
Oh, I was going to ask you that.
society. It's just how some of us are born, and so yeah, even at young ages, children are saying that they don't want to be that gender, and so in San Francisco, what they're doing is inserting blocker implants, and that stops your hormones from developing. So when you reach the age of 13, you won't go through puberty. So when you're around 18, you'll go back to your doctor and they'll say, "So what do you want then? Do you want us to take the blocker out and your male hormones will start as normal, or do you want to go on hormone replacement therapy and become your other gender role that you want to become?" And I think that's an amazing idea, because that gives you the choice then, do you know what I mean, without having all the difficult, you know,
and I'm assuming that the
procedures.
parents have to give their permission.
Yeah,
for that.
yeah, definitely.
So it would be, the parents would be guided, and then they would allow that to happen.
Yeah.
And as you say, then they would have the choice at the end, when they was 18, to take out or continue with the treatment.
Yeah.
And do you think that's a good idea, Talulah?
I think it's an amazing idea. It's really making the most of, you know, the technology that we have and the science and everything like that. We're in a modern world now, and we're a lot more advanced, and I think we should make the most of it in order to help people.
Do you still think there's a stigma involved around, you know, the whole transition period and being a transgender? Do you think there's a stigma still attached to that?
Yeah, I think people are always going to be quite closed-minded to the issue, because I think it's one of those things where you're never going to really understand it unless you've been through it yourself. You can never really understand what it feels like to be trapped in a body. It's horrible, it's torture, and unless you've been through that, you'll never understand it. So obviously there are going to be quite a lot of closed-minded people that aren't going to get it and have narrow-minded views on it, but you know, it's a modern world now. There's so many things happening in the world. This really isn't that much of a big issue as it should be to some people. Like, some people generally like transphobic and hate it, and I just don't get it.
How can they change? How can people's views change, do you think, Talulah? And what would you like to do to make changes?
I think because obviously the transgender like society and community hasn't really been like around publicly for that long. So I think over time, with everybody seeing like people like myself becoming genuinely happy and doing well for ourselves, I think that will change the mindsets of other people. And I think, you know what, they're just normal people, there's nothing wrong with them, they were just born in the wrong body and they're just changing that to make themselves happy, you know. And it's kind of like having, you know, if you're a size 8 shoe and you've got and bought a size 9 pair of shoes, they're going to be uncomfortable, they're going to be slipping off, they're going to cause you pain. So you're going to change it, just like your gender, do you know what I mean? If you're not comfortable being that role, that gender role, or that body that you're in, you're going to change it.
And what would you like to do personally, too? Obviously, you're here today with us, which is wonderful. You've come on the show to tell your story. And I know you've said that you want to enlighten others and empower others.
Definitely.
Is that what you'd like to continue to do so?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I want to continue with my modelling. But
yes, because you're a model at the moment. Let's talk about that. So, you know, you've come through this quite traumatic experience, and you're now modelling, of course, and you're working, and you've just won the title.
I'm a very busy person.
Yes.
Like, I work at Topshop, and then I'm a supervisor of a bar restaurant in my hometown, and then obviously I'm Miss Transgender Birmingham.
Yes. So what does that involve now? You've got that title. What does that involve?
So I'm basically an ambassador for the transgender community in Birmingham, and raising awareness. I'm responsible for all of that now, and so I'm just going to really push the boat and really, you know, try and make Birmingham proud of of the transgender community.
And there is a Miss Transgender UK coming up towards the end of September.
Yeah.
So that's going to be held in London.
So yeah, that's the final.
And then you're automatically entered into that, are you? Is that how it goes?
Yeah, because I've won my region.
So you're automatically entered into the UK?
Yeah, so all the winners from each region will be in the final in London on the 27th of September at the Egg Club. And the winner will get £5,000. So it's ideal because it helps, you know, fund that individual's, you know, surgery or whatever, or they can donate it to charity of their choice or whatever like that. And so they win £5,000 and the title of Miss Transgender UK.
And obviously you're looking to enter that and win it.
Yeah.
So what would you do if you won it, Talulah?
Just continue doing what I'm doing at the minute, you know, putting myself out there, sharing my story, helping younger people. I mean, I've got a meeting tomorrow. I can't say who it's with, but I've got a meeting tomorrow about doing some fundraising work with, like, in TV. So that's exciting. And yeah, just really, you know, making the transgender community proud.
So there's lots of exciting opportunities for you, which is great.
Oh, and also I'm filming my music video this week.
Oh yes, because you sang, didn't you? Yes, tell us about that.
I performed my song that I wrote, and I performed that at the pageant in Birmingham. I think that was what won the judges over, because it was original, it was my own words, and it was a song about the pageant, you know, and how difficult it's been at times, because it's been a real whirlwind. And
is that how you would like to, you know, do some of that, even more some music in the future?
Yeah,
do you think?
Definitely. I want to kind of like do an album, hopefully at some point.
And again, who do you look up to now, Talulah? Who is your inspiration? I mean, you spoke about Kris Jenner, of course, who's now, you know, come out, and that was an amazing, massive story, wasn't it? Is it people like that you look and think, I'm glad that they're telling the world?
A lot of people are saying, you know what, she's an amazing role model, and she is brave and courageous for doing what she did so publicly, because she's got such a high level of fame. But what people don't understand with Caitlyn Jenner and Kelly Maloney is that that's not a real transition. In the real world, a transgender person doesn't get their boobs and their vaginoplasty and everything in a year, because nobody has that kind of money. Do you know what I mean? So it's not. And also from the
psychological effects we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Do you feel it's important to have that support to make sure it's the right decision?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And I think that's why it's important to have real people like myself out there showing a true transition and what a real transition is, because it does take years and years and years of being on the waiting list and appointments and things like that before you can, you know, start to have your surgery and start to see the changes. So yeah, I wouldn't say Caitlyn Jenner is my role model, but I do definitely think she's an inspiration to the community. I'm just inspired by myself, you know, because I've really shocked myself with some of the things I've done, you know. I never thought in a million years that I'd be a beauty queen or on television or on the radio or in national newspapers and news and things like that. So I've really, you know, surprised myself, and I'm really proud of what I've achieved so far, especially in the last 2 months.
Yes, and again, because you're so young.
I'm only 21.
Yeah, so the world is your oyster. Well, Talulah, it's been a pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for joining me, and come back and tell us how you got on at Miss Transgender
definitely,
UK.
I will do.
Thank you. But we're going to take a quick break, but stay with us and come back and join me just after the break. Welcome back to Cuppa TV. My final guest today is singer-songwriter Khaliq, who is currently touring and recording a brand new album. Khaliq, welcome to Cuppa TV.
Welcome.
Wonderful to see you. Wonderful to see you, Khaliq. And obviously you're going to be playing for us a bit later on, which is great. Now, Khaliq, you've been in the music industry for a long time. Not meaning to make it sound like you're very old, but you've been in the music industry a long time, long enough to see the changes and what's happening. But tell us a little bit about your story, Khaliq. How did it all begin for you?
It all started in '95. I started recording some songs. We sent them off. The producer said, I really like this stuff, and he sent it off. And the next minute I was in Manchester with Shaun Ryder's dad, which was quite an event. Because I was a little lad from a little town in the Midlands, and I'd never been to like the city sort of thing, so that was quite mad. And then I got a record deal with Factory Records, Tony Wilson's label, and it all started from there. And really, with all the ups and downs and whatever's gone on, I've never looked back. I've just carried on. playing and living for the music, to be honest.
Music is your passion.
It's my life.
Yeah. And when you started, did you always write your own songs, Khaliq? How did it begin, the songwriting?
I started writing songs, like poems it was really, at school for friends and stuff. Like somebody'd have an argument with the girlfriend and say, and I'd go, I'll write you something. And it started a little bit like that initially. And then I started writing stuff when I was a kid about problems and issues and things that I was dealing with. And it started from there when I was about 13.
And did that help you? Did that help you when you were going through, your sort of teenage years? Did that help you being able to write everything down?
Yeah, because I grew up, obviously I'm Asian, so I grew up in an Asian household, and it's a Western society, so we had two different cultures, which was hard to understand which one to become and which one should be first and second. So I made a decision when I was young to blend the two together and make it something beautiful, and that's what I did, and music helped me do that, because at first I used to be a very, very angry child, and I couldn't understand anything. And my brother said, instead of using your fists to sort out a solution or whatever, he said,
channel it into
music, because you love music. And that was it. From that day on, I just carried on playing music.
And when did you learn to play the guitar?
I started when I was 13.
So about the same time then?
Yeah, so it's been quite a long time.
And is this one of your precious guitars that you're holding now? Is this
the
old
first
guitar?
time I got a record deal, and you get the check and stuff.
Yes.
And the first time I'd ever seen that much money. So I thought, you don't know what's going to happen. So straight away, when it cleared, I went to the shop in Birmingham and looked around and tried loads of different guitars and ended up buying this one. So I've had this one now 20 years, I think it is. So 19 years, 20
So it's
years.
seen a lot of gigs and a lot of songs for you.
Yeah, it's seen a lot of stress.
And when you write now, Khaliq, do you still write, sort of in poetry style, or how do you write now your songs?
My songs are kind of weird, because they seem to be sent, not from a higher force, but they're just, to me, there seems to be songs everywhere. And for some reason, I'm lucky, one of those lucky few who taps into a whole song, and I just put my name on the end of it. So basically, that's how, it's all about my life, and it's all about the people I've met and struggles.
Yeah, so it's experiences that you experience on a day-to-day basis.
But I don't sit there and think, oh, this is going to be in A minor, and I'm going to use this chord, and I'm going to do. My songs flow, and everything I do has to mean something to me and to the audience. And it has to take them on a journey, and that journey, they should leave everything that they are there and go off on this musical thing and come back and go, wow, that was special. That's what my music's about, and that's what I'm about with my music. So it's an escape, really.
And what about your family? Were your family supportive?
Yeah, there was always, mum and dad was always supportive. They did want me to be a doctor, and obviously, the typical great careers, but it wasn't for me. My brother became a pharmacist, my other brother's a lecturer, my sister's a lawyer.
So you're the creative.
But they're all creative, though.
Yes.
They're all into music still and play instruments and that. But I just wanted to totally dedicate myself to music. And my younger brother, Sid Khaliq, is an up-and-coming songwriter. He's on the same kind of path as myself. So
you've said a really good community feel there,
lovely.
as well as and your fans. I mean, you've been established. You're an established musician, Khaliq, so you've got a very loyal fan base.
Yeah.
And how are they important to you? And how do they react to your new music?
We played yesterday at the John Brooks Mini Fest, which was it's a lovely event, and John from the Charlatans had passed away. So it was a very special event for me, because he was a friend of mine, and there's a lot of bands there that we all knew. And to play to, half the crowd must have known me, but the other half I haven't been playing out for a while because I've not been very well. So as we played, to win the crowd over and get a connection, because with my music it's about all of us becoming one. So you don't have to know me, but once we start playing, everybody in the crowd feels a vibe, and that vibe is it's catapulted to each other, and before you know it, it becomes a whole thing, and that's and that happened yesterday, and touch wood, it happens nearly every gig we do.
Well, let's have a tune from you now, Khaliq. So what would you like us to hear?
I off the new album, which is going to be called Songbird,
Okay.
Looking for a Rainbow.
Tell us about that. Tell us a little bit about that song before you play it.
The song I wrote in jam nights that we used to do on a Monday night at the Brown Lion in Birmingham with Andy Bennett from Ocean Colour Scene. And they were great nights, and we made the Monday night become the Friday night. Everybody loved it. And the song, I'd had the idea for quite a bit, and I started playing it at jams there and working on it, and it became my song that everybody wants me to play, and it became the new single. And I was really, really honoured when Steve Craddock from Ocean Colour Scene and Paul Weller's band said he'd play some guitar on it for me and some Hammond organ. So it became the choice song for the new album, which I've been recording with Gavin Monaghan at Magic Garden Studio, same place Little Liam recorded
yes, and
his
they've
album.
Little Liam have been on the show as well.
Great
so,
band.
Yes,
Great bunch of people. So we're all part of that same family, we're all part of that same vibe.
I mean, there is a massive music scene here in West Midlands. Do you think people underestimate that music scene we have here?
Not anymore. It's getting bigger. There's a lot of interest in the scene in Birmingham and the West Midlands. I've been at the forefront of that with a lot of my friends and a lot of other musicians and songwriters. And there's a lot of talent out there, and the talent's making a name for itself. People are coming from far afield to come and watch bands play in Birmingham, and it's got that cool name associated to again, because it's basically a scene, and that scene, and they only happen after a certain amount of time. It's started happening again, and it's gathering some momentum.
Fantastic.
And I'm glad to be part of it.
Wonderful. Well, let's hear your new single then, Songbird.
Do you want me to do Songbird?
Yes, do Songbird. That'd be lovely.
Walking in a blind man's head, see no colours, just hear what's said. The sun feels hot on my face, the blind see an all dark race. The mind opens, the door shuts from behind. Inhibitions lost in time, spare a thought, we say, for the blind. Walking on a blind man's head, see no colours, just hear what's said. The sun feels hot on your face, the blind see an all dark race. The mind opens, the door shuts from behind. Inhibitions lost in time, spare a thought, I say, for the blind. For the blind. Walk becomes a run, shade into the sun. The shy learn to fly, the meek becomes strong. The wrong becomes right, the truth becomes a light in a blind man's world. In this blind man's world, walk becomes a run, shade into the sun. The shy learn to fly, the meek becomes strong. The wrong becomes a right, the truth becomes a light in a blind man's world.
That's Great, Khaliq. Thank you. That's brilliant. Now that's one off your new album, isn't it?
That's right, yeah.
So, I mean, your new album is a process that you're just about to embark on. Is that right? You're currently...
I've recorded 3/4 of it.
Okay.
I've got about a quarter left to do,
Okay.
and then some editing and mastering, and then it should be ready.
So hopefully, will it be out by the end of this year?
I think the single might be out, Songbird might be out by the end of this year, but the album should be finished by the end of this year.
And
should
then
be
coming out,
coming out.
2016.
Yeah.
And has it been wonderful for you to be back in the studios, you know, recording again?
Yeah, it's been fantastic because over the last few years I've done so many gigs, I've met so many people, and done so many jam sessions and stuff. And on this album I wanted all those fantastic players to be on it, and I've been such a lucky person to have some of the best musicians about in this country on this album. You know, some of the best trumpet players and guitarists and bass players, and you know, it's
and
been...
that's really important for you, obviously,
yeah,
to get the right
it's been great.
sound
Yeah,
as well.
and just to be able to phone somebody up and say, hi, I'm recording my album, would you? Oh God, we'd love to. And they get in and you've got their vibe and that special magic that they put on the album. And sometimes you have 2 or 3 people on an album who put that onto the album. I've been lucky because on this album I've probably got about 22 different people who've worked and played songs for me on this recording. It's a very, very special recording.
Would you say this was one of your best ones?
It's the best one I probably can ever do. It's so good, I don't even think it's me. I listen to it and it's up there with Van Morrison and people like that, and it's...
Why do you
I
think
can't
that
really
is,
listen
Khaliq?
to it, to be honest, because when I
Really?
listen to it, no, it's really special. And
Is that because you just feel you're in the right place at the right time now? Is it for a musician? Do you continually sort of go down the path of creativity and then suddenly you just have, it's like a singer-songwriter who writes that one-hit wonder? You know, did you find now with this album you've written something that actually could be very big?
People are saying on my previous albums there's been a lot of tracks that, in my opinion, a lot of people's opinion, could have been very, very big. And they will get to the level that they're supposed to get to. But I needed something, because I'd been ill. I'd been electrocuted in Cannes in France, 2008, and I nearly passed on. And it took me a couple of years to get better.
That's
and
right,
that
I was reading that.
I went to go to...
you were on stage, weren't you? You were just plugging in
I went
something.
to plug in, and it was nearly curtains on that one.
Did that change the way that you thought about life and your music and how much it meant to you?
Yeah, it did, because I didn't think I was going to survive, and apparently people who have that much of an electric shock at what had happened to me don't survive. So I was blessed to still be here, and I did a gig at the ICC in Birmingham, and Jermaine Jackson was there, which is a really cool gig. And when I was playing, I forgot my lyrics, and I looked over to the one side and I saw myself looking at myself, telling me my lyrics. And that was after being electrocuted, and I had to stop playing after that day for quite a while to get better. And I realised it was a form of like astral projection. And so my next album, I called it Astral Projection. So the electrocution and going one way and coming back was the birth of the new album. So yeah, it did affect me, and I was quite sad for quite a bit, and depressed and angry and hurt, and I was in a lot of pain. But since I've come out the other side, my music seems to... I still got sadness in my music and stuff, but I've got a lot of happiness and a lot of drive in it now as well. And the new song, Songbird, I think is going to be a massive hit, and so do a lot of other people. So that could
That could be the one.
make everybody get into my other albums, and because I am 4 albums in, which is quite a lot, really.
Yeah. And I mean, being a musical artist, though, do you think sometimes, Khaliq, the career, often it can be chance? You know, sometimes you just meet the right person in the right place, be in the right yourself, be in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
Do you think that's
It is very much,
part of your industry, really?
It is, and it's a great industry, but at the same time it's a wild industry. You know, you don't expect... it's not like going to university, coming out with a degree and going for the interview and getting a job. Because each job, it's your own job, and people try to manipulate you, and people try to help you, and you've got to try to work out who's good and who's bad. And it's not very easy when you're opening out basically your soul with your songs. It's very an intimate thing, and sometimes at that point, most musicians are vulnerable, and the industry takes a toll on those type of people, and I have been one of those, and now I'm a lot stronger. I understand the industry. I started back in the day with Sean Ryder's dad as my manager, and he was an impeccable, great bloke. So he taught me a lot of things and what to watch out for. And I've been on the journey for 20 years now. And
so it's a long journey.
It's a great journey.
Great journey. Well, can you play us a little bit of Songbird?
Yeah.
Can you try? I know you're suffering today, aren't you? So
yeah,
I tell you what, just give it maybe a little instrumental.
Okay, and I'll maybe give you the first verse or something.
Just the first verse would be wonderful.
Okay.
Just to give people a little taste of what's to come.
Woke up this morning hazy, jumped out my coffin, baby, crazy life. Pass me my coffee, brother, light up a cigarette, it's alright. Look out my window, baby, it's been raining all night. Pass me my jacket, brother, looks like I'm going outside. I'm walking the streets now, brother, look at the beautiful, beautiful lights. Took in a breath that saved me, you know it kind of saved my life. I spoke to vultures, brother, they said to show me how to fly in the morning light. You know they lied to me, baby, they stole my dreams and ate them alive.
Excellently, thank you. I mean, again, a very powerful song. So you wrote that, and you know this part of your new album. So how many songs are going to be on the album now?
I'm looking about 12 to maybe 15.
Fantastic, brilliant. Well, you must come back again and join us and tell us how you're getting on.
Fantastic.
Love to see you, and good luck with it, because obviously it's a new album that means a lot to you.
Thank you ever so much, Monica.
Yeah, it's wonderful to see you. Thank you so much.
On.
That's it for today's show. I'd like to thank Talulah and Khaliq for joining me today. And if you'd like to get in touch with us here, you can join us on Facebook or Twitter at Big Centre TV. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you for watching. Come back and see me again very soon. Bye-bye.